Good evening and welcome to another edition of Cueball's Cutting Corner. I'm Cueball, and tonight I'm going to take you through some of the knives that just touched my heart in some way or another. Either they were gifted to me or they were knives that I purchased because somebody recommended the knife to me and I ended up just falling in love with it. Some of these knives are very inexpensive. Some are actually quite expensive. But I do have a lot of knives on this list, so if you're not in the mood for a long video, you probably want to tune this one out. But if you do want to enjoy some good story time with Cueball and sharing some of the past of his knife life, well, grab some popcorn, grab your favorite beverage, and pull up a chair, or maybe take and lay down and yeah, hopefully this will be very entertaining for you. Well, I'm going to get things started off right now with the Spyderco Delica 4. This is the knife that started me down my rabbit hole with knife collecting and just my fascination and obsession with pocket knives. The Delica 4 is not that expensive of a knife. I would consider it to be a budget knife nowadays, but it is a very capable knife. This one I've outfitted with a Lynch Clip Northwest. Pocket clip, titanium pocket clip. This made it into a deep carry. Nothing really else that I've done with this knife, but just give it a little bit of KPL light, so that way it has a very good action because it is running on phosphor bronze washers. And yeah, excellent knife. This is one that I will never sell. It does have some wear, as you can see. There is some scratches, and the blade has got some scratches on it too. There's, fingerprints and whatnot, but that's okay. This is one that I actually use and carry, especially during the summer months when it's really hot, because it is a very lightweight knife. All right, so let's go back into the past, and I'm going to take and share this next knife. This is a Benchmade mini striker, and it is an Elishewitz design, and this was a knife that was gifted to me by my brother back in the late 90s. I want to say 99 or 2000. Back then, I was basically a couple years out of college. I had dropped out of college. I was working at a local pizzeria. I was getting into management, and my brother, he was getting into knives at that time. I believe my brother was either working at the tail end of Nintendo, or he just got a job at Microsoft at the time. Anyways, he was making good money, I know that. And he was getting into knives, and he decided to gift both my father and I one of these. And these were a premium knife back in the day. One of the first liner locks that I believe that was production with titanium liners. These are actually titanium. You can see they look like steel, but they're not. They are actually titanium. The one interesting thing about this knife, it has been well used. The pocket clip has got a lot of scratches on it, but there is one big problem with this knife. There's no blade. Yeah, so me being irresponsible with things back in the day, I ended up having to use this knife to pry out some speakers that I had siliconed in my car that I was trading in. And at the time, I was working with a dealership. To be quite honest, they were not a friendly dealership, and would not loan me even just a flathead screwdriver. And so this was all I had in my pocket, and I ended up snapping the blade on this thing, and it broke my heart. And I didn't know at the time, and for years, that, hey, Benchmade actually sold replacement blades, so I could have actually had this fixed. But when I did finally call upon Benchmade, this model had been discontinued for quite some time. So yeah, I now have a non-functioning knife, but I keep this because, one, it's a friendly reminder to take care of your things and use them properly, which I did not, in this case, use the knife properly. But two, it holds a lot of meaning, being that it was a gift from my brother, and I know he spent some good money on this knife. I believe it was around $140, $150 knife back in the day, which was quite expensive in the early 2000s, late 1999, or late 90s, I should say. So anyways, but I was able to find on a secondary here a few years ago a replacement. And this one, I believe, was made in 2004. And by that time, Elishewitz had no longer, he was no longer contracted with Benchmade. And so this one does not actually have his namesake on it. And so it doesn't say Elishewitz on here. It still says 154 cm, which was the premium steel back then. This has the titanium liner, the liners on it, G10 handles, although it is a little bit different G10 texturing than what came on my knife, my original one. And the pocket clip is a little bit different as well. Some have said that there are fakes of these out there, but I'm pretty sure that this one is real. I bought it from a collector and didn't have to spend a ton of money for it, but it was a pretty good penny because these are very rare now. This one is in very good condition. And yeah, so it's kind of nice to have a mini striker that actually functions now. And just a really, really neat knife. It's very hard to flick out. There's not much of a detent on these. I can reverse flick it, which is kind of cool, but small pocket knife. You know, this is what you got. This is premium 23 years ago, folks. So, all right, set those guys aside. So the next knife that I'm going to share with you is one, and I'm actually not going to be going in any certain order, but this is a knife that was given to me by Josh Branson. And Josh Branson, you know who you are. I really appreciate this. This is a knife that I will not sell. I do need to get a new pocket clip for it, though, because it came without one. But I had Josh had sent me this out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't have a lot to send. He's like, hey, I hope maybe you can get some use out of this, and I will. Actually, I do plan on getting the pocket clip for this. This is a SOG Terminus, and it's a this is the one with the red G10 handle. The Terminus, is a very popular knife out there in the EDC community. I don't know what blade steel this is. It does show that there's a little bit of, maybe even a little bit of rust here and there, like right around you can see right around the thumb stud. But this is just a knife that I'm going to hold on to because, you know what, it was a nice gesture, and I can still get some good use out of this. And but yeah, it just means a lot. When somebody sends a gift to you, it's out of the kindness of their heart, and it doesn't matter what the value of the gift is. It's the the meaning and the the heart that went into the gifting. And so Josh, thank you very much for this. This is a very special knife, and I do treasure this. Speaking of knives that I treasure, this next one is, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so I have no clue what this knife is. As you can see, this is not a tip-up carry. This is a tip-down carry, and some very interesting patterns here and jimping all over this knife. And this one actually happens to be assisted. It almost appears to have a hollow ground grind on this, though, which is interesting. So a little bit about this knife. My parents have a neighbor that moved in, renting the house next door to them. And his name is Mitch. He's a really awesome guy. He's into cars. And we were talking about hobbies. We'd actually went out to dinner one night, and we were just getting to know each other's friends. And he's helped kind of keep an eye on my family. I have elderly folks and a really elderly grandmother. And so it's just nice to know that their neighbors, next to them, keep them in their minds and keep an eye on them, especially when I'm not around. So Mitch found out that I was into pocket knives and at that dinner, and so a few weeks later, I was over at my folks, and he yelled across the driveway and said, "Hey, Chris, come over. I got something for you." And he gave me this nondescript, non-marked blue box that contained this guy. And he said he'd gotten it off of Amazon. He only paid a few dollars for it. And he thought that I might like this to add to my collection. So, again, the lockup on this knife is actually pretty good. You can see that it doesn't locks up pretty well. It is a little bit stiff on the lock bar tension, but it does snap out there pretty well. and it does actually have a fairly decent edge on this knife. I don't know what kind of steel this is. I don't know, this is obviously a steel handle. At least it feels like it's steel. It's pretty heavy. It could be aluminum though too, just with the steel liners. I don't know. I haven't taken this apart to see. Anytime there's a knife with a spring, I prefer not to take it apart. But anyways, this knife is going to remain in my collection because Mitch gave this to me. Yes, Mitch has now seen some of the knives in my collection, and he even had mentioned to me, oh my gosh, I can't believe I gave you that knife. And I was like, dude, don't stress it. I said, that what you did was very, very nice. I appreciate it. And I will always treasure this knife that you gave to me. So thank you. So yeah, this is, again, inexpensive pocket knife, but holds much, much more value and meaning in my heart. All right, let's shift gears here a little bit. I'm going to go to this. Happens to be the first Kubi that I purchased, and I purchased this on Amazon. And I'd heard about Kubi knives through Jared Neve. Jared was showcasing a Kubi knife on his channel, and I'd never heard of Kubi. And so I actually went online on Amazon, and I found this guy. This is called the Wolverine, and this is in AUS 10 steel. It's a titanium anodized blue. It's very, very slim on the profile. If you see here, the width is it's very slim, narrow knife. Very lightweight too. Oh, the action on this knife is insane though. This knife, I think, cost me around $70. It was not really that expensive. At the time, I thought it was fairly expensive because, $70. But for a knife, you get into the hobby, $70 becomes $150, then $200, and then $400, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, cool knife. As you can see, very well worn. I did carry this one quite a bit. It still has a pretty good sheen to it. This is more of a bead blast finish on this AUS 10. The sound that this knife makes is just, it's just beautiful. It's got one of the nicest, just one of the nicest tones. Yeah, and it just kicks out. It is hard to fail this knife. I mean, just look at that. I mean, I'm barely giving it any. Yeah, it's amazing. You can light switch this. You can push button it. I mean, it just shoots out. But really excellent knife for the money. I was really surprised, and this is kind of what got me into looking into Kubi for some of their other offerings as well. So thank you, Jared. Speaking of Jared, here's another one that caught my eye. When Jared was introducing, I think I watched a video. This is the Tucson TS129, and Jared was showcasing this on like a video where he was showcasing this on one of his videos, like fast five knives or something like that. And so this is the TS129. It is in this gorgeous carbon fiber that has been contoured. I don't know if you can see that, but it's definitely been contoured. It's nice and rounded. Beautiful piece of carbon fiber. I'll bring that up into the, it's just gorgeous. And then on this side, it's got this beautiful titanium and micro milled all the way up and down. Just, it's a gorgeous knife. Pocket clip works fantastic. The action on this knife is super smooth. I love this. Now, Jared has his, and I got a chance to actually, I think Jared brought his last year. Whoa, shoot. The one thing about this hole is that it's very sharp, so it does tend to catch. If you don't have a good grip on it, it may catch your fingers, so you kind of have to be careful. I was thinking about taking some sandpaper and actually just sanding it down on the inside a little bit here just to get rid of that sharp edge. But anyways, it's really good at reverse flicking. It is a front flipper as well. You can definitely do the thumb flick. The thumb flick on this is amazing. The reverse flick is good too, but the front flipper works excellent. It's just a really neat knife, and it's got this cool blade shape that almost looks like it's got this hawk bill, but it doesn't recurve at all. It actually just goes straight up to the tip. So this is all straight from down to here, and then it has this little tiny belly, and then it again straightens out towards when you start getting to the choil here, it just starts to straighten out. But anyways, cool knife. It is my very first Tucson that I purchased. I bought this one off of Amazon, and yeah, I love this knife. I will never sell this knife. All right, got a couple more that were inspired by Jared, but I'm going to switch gears now, and let's go to a knife that, yeah, you'll see it and you'll know. You know what this is. You know what this is. So this is the Redension 229 with the thumb studs, and this has got the textured G10, which I really like. This is some of the nicest G10 that I've ever felt in terms of texturing. It's just fantastic. And it does give this knife some weight relief, which I like. The action on this knife is stupid, just stupid. It does have kind of a late detent. So I have to get my finger out of there because it definitely is, fall shut. You can reverse flick this thing, and it's a nice, strong detent. Oh, so this knife, I actually did a trade with anybody who knows M-Bomb of M-Bomb Jerky, Mateo. I'm good friends with Mateo, and I had sent him some knives to check out, one of them being a Vero Engineering Synapse XL. I'd just gotten the knife, maybe had it for about a week, and sent it to him to check out. He in turn sent me this knife, and so he was really interested in the f5.5 from Urban EDC with the Sagaya pattern, and he wanted to buy that knife, and I wasn't ready to sell it, and he got it in hand because that was one of the knives I sent to him along with the Synapse XL. And come to find out, he really fell in love with the Synapse, and he offered to go ahead and trade me for this. And when he sent me this, I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to get one of these. Not only does it have this awesome compound grind, this is the Tonto version, and it's hollow ground up here with the flat up front. Nice swedge, just very pronounced swedge. This is such a mean looking blade. M390 for the blade steel. Again, stupid smooth action, perfectly centered on this knife. I mean, it's just, it's a great knife. It really is. Very, very comfortable handle. But again, being that this came from Mateo, and I really, appreciated what he did. I mean, he didn't have to trade. He could have asked or he could have sold this to me, and I could have, paid him money. But I know he really liked the Synapse XL. I liked it, but I like this a lot more. And so it actually worked out really well for both of us. This next knife, yes, you guys know what this is. This is a Vist, and this particular model is a prototype that he not auctioned, he gave away. So he gifted it for a giveaway, and I ended up getting this knife. And the fact that this is one of his prototypes, so this is not one that was part of the production, but a pre-production knife. This is a really neat little knife. And it also came with the titanium, some anodized titanium scales, but I never did put those on. I still have them, but I just like the micarta on this. It's almost like this blue jeans micarta. Really awesome texture on this. It's got this nice coating, almost like a blacked out, washed out blade. And gosh, for being such a small knife, excellent action. It really is comfortable. This is more of a 3-finger knife for me, but if I choke up on this, I can get my middle finger right in that divot, and it becomes very solid in hand. But since this was a giveaway knife, and one of the first giveaways that I won on Instagram, and the fact that it is a prototype just makes it all that much more special. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about this little guy. So this obviously is the Tactile knife company Rockwall, and I purchased this before Blade Show. I think I had it a few months before Blade Show, and this one is in Magna Cut. Stupid, ridiculous thumb stud action. I mean, it just does barely put any pressure, and it just, that detent just flies out. And you can actually get a pretty good reverse flick on this too, but well, it's kind of hard. I'm kind of behind the camera right now, but the awesome thing about this knife is the thumb stud, and it just flies out. This does have a little bit of a late lockup compared to, you know, some of my other liner locks, and you can see it's starting to kind of wedge over a little bit. I do carry this knife a lot because it is one of my favorite pocket knives. I love this short little deep carry clip. I love the micro milling that's in this. And the reason that this knife has become sentimental is, one, it's one of my favorite pocket knives to carry. I can get all 4 of my big giant fingers on this knife, which is just insane. The fact that this less than 7-inch knife fits my hand just so well, and it feels good. But on the road trip last year with Snuz and Said Stevie and Matisfaction, so Matisfaction and Said Stevie decided to purchase a rock wall of their own at Blade Show, and each of them got different thumb stud options. So I believe Said Stevie got Zirconia, and Matisfaction got Damascus, and so this became inferior to theirs. So yeah, this is an inferior rock wall, and it will always be the inferior rock wall because it is it's not even close to Matisfaction and Said Stevie's, because my thumb studs are just plain and bland and blah. So anyways, but I love this knife. It is going to remain in my collection for as long as I live. Okay, so let's talk about the first WE knife that I made a purchase on. Now, this isn't the first WE knife that I actually got in hand. This is the Kite Fin, and it's a small knife. Well, actually, it was a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. However, what drew me to this knife is just this amazing anodization work and milling that is done here on the front. And it's black coated, and then it's got the anodization going into that milling there, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then on the other side, the lock bar side, you have this awesome titanium hardware that's been anodized bronze. They've anodized, this is a titanium pocket clip. They've actually excuse me, they've actually anodized the little holes as well. These have been countersunk, and they went ahead and anodized in there. It's really amazing. Knife has very, very good action. It's not quite fall, shut action, but it's very snappy. And the fact that you got a pretty decent finger choil up here that I can get into makes this actually not a bad gentleman's carry knife. And well, I purchased this from Knife Center, and I actually waited almost 7 months for this knife to come back in stock. So it sat there in my shopping cart, paid for actually. It wasn't even in my shopping cart. I'd paid for this. And I kept getting updates. I'm like, when are they going to take and send this knife? Well, they finally did, and I finally got it. And I think this one is an S35VN. It's really tiny, but you can see it there, S35VN. And so yeah, excellent knife. Love this knife. Will not sell this knife because it was one of my first premium knives. So cool little knife. And speaking of WE, let's go ahead and get back to one here that Jared influenced me on. For many of you, you might know what this is too. This is the WE Malice. This is a Ferrum Forge design. This is a Brutus of a knife. It is just, yeah, it's very, very big. And I know I'm going to cut myself here. I'm just not experienced behind the camera. But again, just what can I say about this thing? Feels so good in the hand. It's so well done. We just knocked it out of the park with this guy. I will say that the flame anodization, it's very delicate. It's got some scratches and some snail trails all over it. When I got this knife, I bid for this knife, and it was brand spanking new. And yeah, it doesn't hold up that well. Had I kept it in the box, then it would have been left pristine. But most of my knives are not safe queens, and so if I wanted to have this redone, I can always do that. It doesn't bother me. I don't use this knife a lot, but I do take and bring it out every so often just to kind of admire it. I know I just said Safe Queens, right? Well, I do carry this. So, but like I said, I don't use it a lot. This is one that I don't carry that often just because it is just such a meaningful knife. Why? Because Jared had this on his channel as one of his favorite knives. And I absolutely fell in love with it the moment I saw it. And I said, I have to get one of these. So I'm relentless when it comes to searching for something that I want. I will spend days, weeks, months, years trying to find it. And a few months went by. I was able to actually find this on an auction. I ended up getting into a bidding war. This became, for quite some time, my most expensive knife because I paid well over what these went for originally. But I don't care the fact that I have one in my collection. Awesome knife. Okay, so yeah, let's go back to Kubi. So another one that was actually inspired by Jared. So Jared actually had this on his YouTube, and he was showcasing. This is the Kubi Atlas, and I went online, and lo and behold, Amazon had this on sale for like 115 bucks. Now this normally goes for like 165, I think. And you would think it would be more because there's so much titanium in this knife. This knife's big. I mean, it's gigantic. It's almost 8 inches, or it might be actually a little more than 8 inches in length. I can't fit my whole hand in the video, but my hand is from wrist to top of my middle finger is a little over 8 inches. So I have big hands, and this knife, yeah, it fits my big hands just beautifully. Love it. When I got this knife in the mail, I had no idea how ridiculous the action was going to be on this. It has such the coolest sound, and it's just, oh my gosh, just a fidgeter's dream. It's so smooth. It's fall shut. You can finger flick it. You can reverse flick it with the Spidey flick. You can take and use the flipper tab. And what's cool is it's got this fuller too, so you can even use your ring finger. And I think I can do this with my pinky. Yes, I can. So I can 5-finger flick this knife. But yeah, this has become one of my top 3 favorite knives, and I just will never get rid of it. I think at some point I'll send it in, maybe to knife modders and have them do some trickery to it. You know, they do an amazing work. And so at some point in time, yes, I will send this knife into them and have them do some of their knife trickery to it, because, oh my gosh, I love this knife. Absolutely love it. So thanks again, Jared. All right, and speaking of knife modders, the next knife I'm going to show is very special because this happens to be a knife that was modified and customized by both Lindy and Richie. And so Lindy and Richie, thank you so much for taking my knife in. I know that you were super busy at the time, and you gave me the go-ahead, and I sent it to you, and you sent back to me what is going to be an heirloom piece that I'm so happy with this knife. So for those who don't know what this knife is, this is another Ferrum Forge design, but this is a Ferrum Forge brand. And this is the Archbishop 3.0, and it's made by We. So again, We does a lot of work with Ferrum Forge designs, and this is a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter than the Malice, but it's a very similar. You can see there's a lot of the same lineage in this knife as there is to the Malice. And so what they did to this knife, boy, I really didn't do it justice. Let me take and try to get some of this off the polished blade, because this is really the showcase of the knife. All right, so as you can see, there's my face. Hello. This has a mirror. Oh my gosh. This has a mirror stonewash finish on it. So you see all those specks? That's the stonewash portion. But as you can see, as I'm talking here, you can see my mouth moving. It has a mirror polish on this blade, and it is absolutely gorgeous. This is the stone texturing. This knife came with contoured titanium handles, but you can see the stone pattern in here. And then it has this awesome black wash finish that's done over the top. and then black Cerakoted hardware. So it just really brought this knife home. And this was when I got this back in hand, it just feels so much more premium now because of the modifications that were done. The action on this knife is great too. One of the best detents that I have in my collection. It is just a joy to reverse flick, and the flipper tab works fantastic. It's one of the most comfortable flipper tabs that I have in my collection. So awesome knife. Yes, this cost me not just the knife, but the modifications, which I will tell you were more than the cost of the knife, but very well worth it. Both Lindy and Richie are just doing some amazing work. And if you get a chance, check them out. They're on Instagram. They're called the Knife Modders. I will take and put a link to in this video. But yeah, definitely love that knife. All right, so let's see. I think I'm going to go to this guy here. So, it's a Raven Crest. Here, let me put it the right way. Raven Crest Tactical. Yeah, why does Chris have Cueball have a Raven Crest Tactical knife? Isn't Raven Crest selling just Chinese ripoffs that they say they've customized? Well, that may be the case, but let me tell you, this particular Raven Crest was gifted to me by my good friend Scott. When I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, back in 2006, 2007, I joined a pool league team that was actually, there was 3 of us. One of the gentlemen that invited me on the team, his name was Scott, and we ended up winning that league. In 2007, it was awesome. And when I left Phoenix, I really didn't ever say goodbye to Scott. And so I went back up to Seattle, and I lived there until 2016, and I sold my house and moved back down here to Phoenix, still working for the same company. And I work for Grainger, and as you can see, this is going to come across more orange on the camera than it is in my hand. It's more reddish, but it is a reddish orange. And then with the black hardware, Scott gifted this to me for my birthday about 5 years ago. No, was it 5 years? Yeah, it must have been 5 years ago. And he got this knife strictly because it was in the Grainger colors. And so, yeah, this is a very sentimental knife. It is a cheap, I will say, out the front automatic. It's actually got pretty good action. I've had this guy apart, and it's not built terrible, but it weighs like 8 ounces. This thing is just a chunk. I mean, you could huck this at somebody and do probably more damage than you would with the blade. However, it does have a sharp blade on it. It is, not the best grind, not the best Tonto blade that I have in my collection. However, again, being that it's from my buddy Scott, thank you, Scott. I really appreciate this. This is one that will always remain in my collection. Okay, let's see. This next knife, again, do I really need to introduce it? No. This is the original, the OG. This is the GOAT in terms of EMP EDC, and that is the original Nimble. And I am a fan of most of EMP EDC's work. I have also 2 of the Nimble XLs, one with the spear point blade, and the other one I have in their sheep's foot blade. And so I will say this though. Actually, no, excuse me. Both of the XLs that I have are in the Warncliffe. I'm sorry, it's a Warncliffe. No, not Warncliffe. It is a sheep's foot. So anyways, but this is the spear point. This is the original Nimble, and I have a Fat Boy too that I had actually purchased from Kevin, Lefty EDC, and of Divo Knives. But there's just something about the Nimble that just, yeah, for being such a tiny knife, and the fact that I can get all 4 of my big chunky hand on this knife, great jimping that locks me into that blade, big enough choil to where I don't feel like I'm going to take them right up and slice my index finger off. You can see I've carried the heck out of this. There's scratches all over it. This knife definitely gets use. I think it's number 139. There it is right there, 139. Excellent knife, and just made me feel in love with what a premium knife really can do. And one that's really designed, for not just for the looks and the feel, but also for the function as well. This is definitely a great little tool, and I love carrying this. At some point in time, I'll send this off, or I'll maybe anodize this myself. I do have all the equipment to do anodization. I just haven't gotten my lazy behind up yet to do that. Maybe after Blade Show, I'll take and start practicing on some bars of titanium. But anyways, yeah, one that I won't sell. Very sentimental to me. We're going to take and drop it down to a little guy. So this next one is, you probably have guessed it already, this is the Angry Watermelon. And yes, this is one of the original, it's not called the Angry Watermelon. I don't remember what model this is. It's an RR2313. That's the model number, RR2313. However, it became known as the Angry Watermelon by obviously the watermelon micarta or G10, whatever this is on the outside. This is such a tiny little knife. It's a great little box or letter opener though, because it is sharp. However, this is more of a novelty knife. And then I had the watermelon slip made for this by Lancelot Leather. Thank you, Joe. Love these little slips. I have actually quite a few products made by Joe. Hope to get some more, maybe a mat at some point. We'll see. But this was gifted to me by Christine with Women Carry Knives. And Women Carry Knives is a great channel because Christine has got these petite little hands, and she showcases some of the neatest little EDC knives and sometimes bigger knives too. Don't get me wrong. But she caters, she shows a lot of knives that are meant to be carried in, smaller pockets, those of the female type. And I appreciate Christine because, she's catering to a part of the population, that many of our channels don't. And so, what Christine is doing is fantastic. And of course, her husband, Peter, Therapeutic Edge, another great guy. But she found out that I didn't have one of these, and she had a couple, that were left that she was gifting. And I had loaned them some knives to take and do some reviews on, and she sent this back. And so thank you, Christine. I really appreciate it. I have since added the blueberry and then also the Angry Bee as well. Actually, I think it was the Angry Bee, then the blueberry, and of course had to have Lancelot Leather little slips for these as well. So these are cool little keepsakes that I'll never get rid of. These are just something that I just enjoy having, and at some point in time, I'll gift them to my niece or nephew. All right, so we're going to take and go back to the family for just a moment. This next knife was actually a gift 2 Christmases ago. This is an old timer, and old timer is made by Schrade. And old timer is exactly what it says. It's an old timer pen knife, pocket knife. And this is just a little slip joint knife that actually is really strong. And, just a slip joint, nice, smooth, edges on this. This is not a very expensive knife. However, my mom decided to gift this exact same knife to all the men in the house. That included my niece's fiance, Gabe, and then my brother and I, and also my father. We all have now this knife, and so thank you to my mom. And it's just a simple little, again, pen knife, but it has, there's a sheep's foot blade on it. That's pretty cool. It has, again, the standard clip point, and then this is the clip point blade here, and then of course the last one here. Get this out. This is more of a drop point style. I can't remember the name. There's a name for this style of blade where it drops down really acute there towards the end. Man, can't believe it or remember the name, but that's okay. Anyways, a neat little knife that it's got the brass bolsters here. The bone. This is actual bone. So neat little knife that I'll keep in my collection because, again, it was a gift from my mom. So thank you, Mom. Right. We are getting down to a few left here. These next ones I'm going to show are sentimental because they were the first knives produced and distributed by some people here in the knife community. So the first ones that I'm going to bring out are whoops, wrong one. Did I bring it? Yes, I did. Okay. Are the Divo Knives Stouts. And I say Stouts plural because I have two of them. So I have one in the aluminum carbon fiber, and then this other one here is in the copper carbon fiber. And I'll bring these up close so you can actually see some of the detail. These are just absolutely amazing. Look at that carbon fiber. It's just fire. Oh, if you could see it in person, it looks so much better. The aluminum is very striking as well. Obviously, it matches very well with the silver and the titanium. These are two of the best action knives that I have in my collection. I kid you not. QSP, I believe, did the OEM on these two knives, and they just crushed it out of the park. Yeah, so Kevin, Colin, really nicely done. I'm just, so smooth. It's butter action on these knives. Oh, incredible. Wire pocket clip on both of these. And I believe that these are 20 CV steel, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's M390. I think it's 20 CV. About the same type of steel. But gosh, even the coated blade one here is just, see, it hit my nail. If it wasn't for my thumbnail, would have gotten me. But yeah, these two knives are just incredible. I will never sell these. So, all right. And then speaking of first editions or first releases, the next one is going to be Tempest Knives, and that is the Pinion. So this is a knife that Casey came out with. He tried to come out with another knife before this, and unfortunately it didn't take and get through the pre-order. However, this one did, and this is, again, more of a budget model, 14C 28N on the steel, beautiful stone washed finish on the blade, and nice textured and contoured micarta. This is the black micarta. This is, again, the Pinion, and it's just a really, the action on this knife is sick. It's just, it just flies out. Nice early detent there, and both the thumbs deployment, the whole deployment, and the reverse flick are just satisfying. And let's see if I can do that down low. Can I? Yeah, I can. Okay. It's easier to get with the thumb up here. And then with this one, you can actually take and get in there with your ring finger. Look at that. I could barely had to, look at that. It's crazy. Excellent action on this knife. It's a really good performer too. It feels good in the hand. And Casey did a fantastic job with this design. Very functional, but also very, very interesting knife to look at. Has some car type features, like there's the windshield. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, yeah. Anyways, it's a cool knife. And I will not sell this because, again, this was Casey's first knife. All right. Couple here. Let's go last year Blade Show. So last year Blade Show, I didn't know what I was going to buy for my first knife. I'll be honest. I had no idea. I'd never been there before. And I just knew that there was something about the TRM, the Shadow, that just really attracted me to that knife. And I, at first when Jared sent me his Shadow to check out, he has a G10, black G10 version. And I didn't really think a lot of it at first. And it wasn't until I started to carry that knife. And I had 5 of his knives for about 4 months. And in that 4-month period of time, I ended up falling in love with the TRM Shadow. And last year at Blade Show, I had an early bird pass, and I went right to their booth, and I had no idea that they were going to sell these things. And it was love at first sight. I picked one up, and I said, "How much is this?" And I didn't care. I had my credit card out, ready to go. I actually bought a G10 version as well. So I came home with 2 TRM Shadows. And unfortunately, this fell off the couch one night when I fell asleep. I had it with me and landed. I can't believe I did that. You can see it right there. Landed on my ceramic tile. I have ceramic tile in my whole house. I live in Arizona, so it's very common. And unfortunately, I got some some road rash on there. You can see it. It's there. Yeah. But what a truly beautiful knife. I mean, this is phosphor bronze washer, so it's just glass. And the river lock, which is their version of the bar lock, is so smooth. I mean, there's no resistance at all. You can feel the resistance of the spring, but there's no friction. Excuse me, no friction. And then the blade doesn't drop shut, but I don't care. I can swing this shut just with a little flick. And again, the reverse deployment is fantastic on this knife. Not the best pocket clip as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the knife this pretty should have something a little bit more, with a little more flair. However, this is made with the same hardware as the G10 model. The only difference is the scales. So everything else on this knife is part of the G10 model, which sells for quite a bit less, mind you, including the pocket clip. But this is such a special knife. It was the first knife that I bought at Blade Show, and so therefore I'm showcasing it. I find it very hard to sell this knife just because, one, the rarity of this knife, and two, just the fact that it's just, again, it's a hard knife to come by, and it was my first purchase ever at Blade Show, so it's very sentimental. All right, let's talk about the sleeper knife. So the sleeper knife, oh boy, oh, I have not deployed this knife in a long, long time. Look at how late that detent is. It's terrible. There, I can finally drop it. So this knife, this is a knife that I ended up ordering one night, believe it or not, in my sleep. That's right. I actually ordered this knife off of eBay. I had been looking on eBay at the time for Tucsons because at that point in time, I was really big into Tucsons, and I amassed a very large collection of Tucsons. I've sold quite a few since then. But this knife arrived in the mail one day, and I had no idea what this was. I was like, where the heck I never ordered this. Well, I went back into my history in eBay, and sure enough, I had ordered this knife, and it arrived. I literally ordered this in my sleep. I sent this knife to Jared, and this knife kicked up a lot of controversy. He showcased this as one of the slim CEO style knives, and that video, it has over 1 million views. I know that. It definitely did very, very well. And this knife, there were so many comments about this particular knife in the comment section. Ask them about it. It's crazy. Or go look up the video. It's just insane. Where can I get that? Oh my gosh, where did you get that? Where did you find that? And it literally has one of the most useless pocket clips ever. This thing, you can't even get this over thin material. I mean, it's just horrible. The knife actually hits the back spacer, the blade. You can actually run your finger in there and right across that blade if you wanted to. Let's hope you don't want to because you cut yourself. And of course, it says that it's M390, but we know that it's not. I'm sure that there's no way that this thing is M390. If it is, well, so be it. But I'm not going to have it tested. All I know is that this is my sleeper knife. This is a knife that just went crazy on in Jared's comments, and I just won't part with this knife. It's going to be a part of my collection forever. Let's go back to this knife. Speaking of Tucson, so anybody here knows Lee with Love Them Knives. Lee is, and Lee, I can never do your voice justice, but that was my best rendition. This is Lee's first design, and he Max Tuchuk, I can't pronounce the name. He did a co-design with Max and with Tucson Knives, and this is called the Vandal. This is his very first knife. It actually says Vandal on the backspacer, which is a full titanium backspacer, runs almost the whole length of the knife. This is a button lock, and whatever Lee did to this knife, there is no lock stick, zero. Like it is so smooth. It's unbelievable how smooth this is, and it doesn't have really the deepest cutouts I wish this was a little bit either all the way through hole or a little bit deeper on, maybe even just not quite as rounded on the edges. It's kind of hard to get your finger in there. I mean, it's easy to do it with the button deployment, right? But to get behind there, you really have to push your finger into it to do the reverse flick or even the thumb flick. But huge knife, you know, geez, it has about a 4-inch blade on this thing and it fits my giant hand like a glove. So comfortable in my hand. But LTK sold me this one directly from his collection, and I think he had 6 or 7 of these for sale, and he gave these away. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to tell you what I paid for this, but he literally gave this knife away for what he charged. And Lee, thank you so much. This is a knife that, again, I won't ever sell. It is your first design, and it truly is a good one. I mean, it's awesome, to be quite honest. It's such a great knife. One that I don't carry that often just because it is so big. And it is heavy too. You know, lots of titanium in this guy. But yeah, the Tucson Vandal by LTK and Max, however you pronounce it. All right, these two guys. I'm just going to go over these really quickly. These are both Microtech knives. The first one here is the Vector M. And the second one here is the Kestrel. These are mini knives that came out, I believe the Vector M came out in December 99. And then this one, the Kestrel, came out in April of 2000. And they are dated. That is how I know, because they are actually dated for 2000. And then this one is 12 of 99. So anyways, both these knives were gifted to me by my brother. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. I'm trying to actually sell a fixed blade for him. And in so doing, he has gifted me these knives. These are both in 154 cm, which is a premium steel back in those days. Aluminum handles with these rubber inserts. And really interesting liner lock, because this is what's called a pivot liner lock. So it has actually a long pivot screw, little thin narrow pivot screw that screws in right there. Okay, and you can see it's kind of that's what creates the liner lock. So and it's just got the satisfying feel to it when you disengage the lock, because it's got such a wide face on it. It just feels good in the hand. They're not that comfortable knives, and to be honest, you can flick these out with these giant thumb studs. They do work, but they're definitely not drop shut. They are running on phosphor bronze washers, but a neat little piece of history. And these were a part of my brother's collection before he sold off most of his. He did keep these two, and then he gifted them to me. So thank you, Matt. I really appreciate these. Right, getting down to the wire now, finally. Told you this was going to be a long one. One of my lights just went out. How about that? So let's get to, I think this is the last knife. Well, actually, we'll do this one first, and then I'll get to this one over here. So this one here is the Kaiser Drop Bear. And this is a Kaiser Drop Bear in titanium. It has this excellent crystallized surface. They did some type of a crystallization process to this titanium. It just glitter. It's like glittery. I mean, it's just, like a night sky. Go out into the desert where there's no lights and look up, and that's what it looks like. Just glittery all the way through. And then they did this slow anodization where they actually pull it out and they change the voltage as they're pulling it out to give it this yellow to blue transition. It is slippery. I'm not going to lie, but it's not like super slick. But the Drop Bear, I wanted to try this knife out. I was going to get the aluminum version, and then Jared and Kara, they just never cease to amaze me. They reached out to all of us mods, those of us who helped to mod during their live streams, and said, hey, go on to Mojave and you can choose whatever Kaiser knife you want. And this is the one that I ended up getting. And the action on this is by far the best bar lock knife that I have in my collection. Even better than the river lock on the TRM Shadow. This thing is wicked, wicked, wicked smooth. I mean, it is glossy, glassy smooth. And just effortless deployment, both reverse flick, thumb flick, and the blade just drops right in. Centered, just, you know, beautifully centered, and just an excellent, excellent, excellent knife. So thank you, Jared and Kara. I will not get rid of this knife either. It means a lot. All right. Well, we're going to come down, actually came down to 2 knives. These are the last 2 knives. I'm just looking just to make sure. I had a bunch out. But yeah, these are the last 2 knives. And so this is, yeah. So Sharp by Designs, I've always wanted to own a Sharp by Designs ever since I saw Brian Nadeau's, I think it was his Tempest, maybe. I can't remember. I just remember, I think it was Metal Complex that showed me one of his knives that was a custom, or not showed me, but showed in one of his videos it was a custom. And so when they announced that Riot was doing the Mini Tempest, this is a front flipper, and it's amazing action. This is one of the easiest front flippers for a full-size knives that I've ever seen. And you can actually get in there and flick it out with this fuller too, which is crazy considering that there is not much room to get your meat of your finger in there into that fuller, but I can do it. I can do it. Ha! So anyways, but one of the easiest front flippers that you can, I mean, it's just effortless. And yeah, so I bought this knife, and I just, yeah, there's something about the black on black, this murdered out look that I just really, really love. The carbon fiber is just, again, it's like that Tucson quality, if not better. And I like this Bowie blade. It's more of a, you know, this Bowie clip point. It's just very traditional. And yes, I dropped this knife. As you can see, I'm going to have to do some work on this because I dropped it, and it did open up and went bam, 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 bam on my floor. So I just have a habit of dropping knives. I don't know why. But anyways, yeah, I love this knife. Never leave my collection. It's probably going to be the only Sharp by Designs production knife that I buy. The next one that I buy is going to be a full custom, and I mean that. So next knife, Brian, I'm going to be buying one of your customs. Maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but maybe the year after. It's my 50th birthday then, so maybe I will treat myself. But anyway, Sharp by Design, Mini Tempest. If you haven't picked one of these up or held one of these, you need to. It's phenomenal. All right, the last knife in my Sentimental. Oh, wait, well, what's this here? Oh, shoot, I forgot. I forgot about the Duke. I'm kidding. I didn't forget about this knife. This knife is the Duke. And the Duke was gifted to me by Matisfaction. He had one of these in his box of knives when I first met him. I went over to his home. He happens to live in Peoria, Arizona. I live in Chandler. So we're about 45 minutes away from each other, not too far. And I was like, what in the heck is that? And he goes, that's a Duke. And I went, what do you mean a Duke? He goes, it's called a Duke. You've never heard of a Duke? And I said, no, I've never heard of a Duke. So he said, well, oh my gosh, I got to get you a Duke. Well, he gifted me this Duke. And there is the Duke symbol. It's kind of this weird dude. You can see these are made actually over in Europe. It might be Denmark, I think. I don't remember. It's in France. Excuse me. It is in France. These are made in France, and this is a legitimate company that puts these out. And they're sharp little knives, and they're just made with folded steel. Couple pins there for the lock, and then also for the pivot, and then that's it. I mean, it's the Duke. So, Matt, thank you so much for the Duke. This is a neat little knife, great conversation piece to have in the collection. Right, now we get to the last knife, and this is I'm just going to bring it out. So here it is, folks. Here's one of my most sentimental knives, and in this slip, which is made by none other than Lancelot Leather. Thank you again, Joe. This is the Riot EXO, the original gravity knife. And this one is an LMAX steel. And this has got the black micarta. And this is literally the 22 million knife. And what I mean, not by $22 million, but this is the knife that I sent to Jared and said, you got to review this. And at first, he wasn't going to review this knife. He didn't think he was going to review it. And I said, well, I have one. I'm going to send it to you. And then I sent it to him. And then he made a video about it. And then that video went completely viral for several weeks. And yeah, the rest is history. And this is that knife. This is the one that, basically, I will say, I'm glad that this helped out the channel. I've sent a lot of knives to Jared over the last couple years to check out and to review, but this is the one that, when I got this back in hand, he actually offered to buy this knife, and I told him nope, I'm not selling this knife now. But he is welcome to borrow this knife if he ever wants to do a revisit of it. Of course, he's got his own EXOs now. But this is the one that really, just shot his channel into the stratosphere. He's had a number of videos that went viral, but this was the one that really went viral. And so I'm not going to, say that it was my doing. It's not at all. Who would have known that this video was going to go viral? But it did. And the fact that it was my knife that was featured in that video is pretty special. And so Jared and I have since, talked many, many, many times and have gotten to know each other. I had the pleasure of going up and seeing him this last February when I was on a business trip up there. My company headquarters is outside of Chicago, and Jared and Kara both live outside of Chicago, and I was able to meet up with him one night when I was there, and saw him obviously stay with him at Blade Show last year with Kara and him and several others, and so Jared is just he's got a very popular channel, yes, but I'll tell you what. He's real. He's a real guy. He's very genuine, and everything he says on his channel, I take 100% truth, because the guy has really, if anybody has inspired me the last few years, it really is Jared. So yeah, I'm glad that this helped you out, Jared. I really am. But I'm also very happy to have this in my collection, because I will cherish this forever. And obviously this awesome slip that Joe with Lancelot Leather made. I mean, yeah, it's an awesome package. It really is. All right. Yes, we're a little over an hour. I told you this was going to be a long video, and I promise not all my videos are going to be this long, but I will say this. I enjoy collecting knives. I enjoy not just collecting the knives, but the people that I meet. And all the knives that I shared tonight, have some kind of a meaning. There's a person behind each one of them. And so, it just goes to show what an amazing community this is. And I get to, head to Blade Show again here in a few days and do it all over again. Get to see even more people that I've met over the last year online. And, in fact, that I have this channel now that I can share, my love of knives. And I'm not doing this to earn money. I'm not doing this as a business. This is just something this is my hobby. This is what I love to do. And if I can share some of my passion and, some of the things that I like about certain knives, and I will never say that I'm an expert in knives. I'm not, absolutely not. I can take apart knives. I'm starting to learn how to sharpen knives. I know the different types of steels and stuff that are good and what to look for in a knife. I feel I have a good, grasp of, what goes into a quality knife now. But I started out, again, with, a knife that, was, nobody, probably, I don't know, well, maybe a few people, started out with the Delica, but this was it. This was the knife that got me into the hobby. And now I have many other, specimens in my collection that, obviously rival this knife in terms of materials and build quality and, types of steel. But it was all because of this guy right here. And so, yeah. Well, thank you. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you staying with me. Next one will be shorter, promise. Have a great night, and God bless.